Have you ever wondered why he wants to bang you all the time, even after years together? Most women immediately assume it's just about sex, physical pleasure, or men being unable to control themselves. But honestly, that's one of the biggest misunderstandings women have about men. What many women fail to realize is that physical intimacy affects men emotionally far deeper than they openly admit. For many men, intimacy is not only physical desire, it's emotional connection. Reassurance, stress relief, closeness, and even masculine confidence all tied together. And when a man repeatedly feels unwanted by the woman he loves, something inside him slowly changes emotionally. In this video, I'm going to explain the deeper psychology behind why men crave intimacy so strongly. Hi everyone, I'm Maya Bennett, and one thing most women never fully understand about men is this. Men do not separate intimacy from emotion the same way many women think they do. When a man constantly wants to bang you, it's usually not because he only sees you physically. In many cases, it's actually the opposite. Physical intimacy is one of the deepest ways men feel emotionally connected, accepted, and desired by the woman they love. And honestly, this is where many relationships slowly begin breaking apart. Women often think rejecting intimacy only affects the moment, while men quietly experience it as emotional rejection, distance, and loss of connection. Most men will never openly explain this, but emotionally, they absolutely feel it deeply. What many women don't realize is that men and women experience desire very differently biologically. Women often move through emotional and hormonal cycles where intimacy feels stronger at certain times and weaker at others. But for men, that physical desire tends to stay much more constant. And no, that doesn't make men emotionally shallow. In fact, for many men, intimacy becomes one of the primary ways they reconnect with themselves emotionally after stress, pressure, or emotional exhaustion. So when he reaches for you after a difficult day, he's often not only looking for pleasure, he's looking for closeness, comfort, reassurance, and emotional connection through physical intimacy. And honestly, most women completely misunderstand that emotional layer of male desire. Here's where many women unknowingly damage the emotional connection in their relationship. A man reaches for intimacy, and instead of feeling desired, he starts feeling tolerated. Maybe she says, "Hurry up," or constantly acts irritated every time he wants to bang her. And after enough rejection, something inside him slowly changes. Most men will not sit down and explain how deeply it affects them emotionally. They simply become quieter, more distant, and emotionally withdrawn over time. And women often misread this completely. They think he suddenly stopped caring when in reality he stopped feeling wanted. Because for many men, being desired by their woman is deeply connected to masculinity, confidence, emotional security, and the feeling of being emotionally accepted at home. One of the biggest mistakes women make is assuming men experience rejection the same way women do emotionally. Most women process emotional pain outwardly. They talk about it, express it, or seek emotional support. Men usually don't. When a man repeatedly feels rejected physically by the woman he loves, he often goes silent instead. And that silence becomes dangerous in relationships because women mistake silence for emotional strength when sometimes it's emotional shutdown. He stops initiating, stops flirting, stops pursuing, and eventually stops feeling emotionally safe enough to express desire at all. And honestly, many relationships begin emotionally dying long before they officially end because both people stop understanding what intimacy emotionally means to the other person underneath the surface. Another thing women rarely understand is that intimacy affects how a man behaves outside the bedroom, too. When a man feels genuinely desired by his woman, it often increases his emotional warmth, confidence, patience, affection, and even motivation in daily life. Why? Because men connect emotional reassurance very strongly to physical intimacy. It makes them feel chosen, valued, and emotionally connected to the relationship. But when intimacy constantly feels one sided, forced, or emotionally disconnected, many men slowly stop feeling emotionally secure inside the relationship itself. And honestly, this is why some men begin emotionally drifting without even fully understanding why themselves. Physical rejection repeated over time quietly turns into emotional distance, frustration, resentment, and eventually emotional disconnection between two people who once felt deeply connected. Now, this does not mean women should ignore their own emotional needs or force themselves into intimacy when they genuinely do not want it. That's not the point at all. The real issue is emotional communication. There's a massive difference between lovingly reassuring your man and making him feel unwanted. A woman can say no while still making her man feel emotionally desired. And honestly, that changes everything psychologically for a man. When a woman says, I'm exhausted tonight, but I still want you, it feels completely different from cold rejection or emotional silence. Men can handle hearing no sometimes. What slowly breaks many men emotionally is repeatedly feeling like their desire has become annoying, inconvenient, or emotionally unwelcome inside the relationship. One of the most powerful things a woman can do in a relationship is make her man feel wanted without always waiting for him to initiate everything. And honestly, many men secretly crave this far more than women realize. A simple touch, a flirtatious look, a spicy message during the day, or even initiating intimacy first can completely change a man's emotional energy. Why? Because men are used to carrying the pressure of pursuit constantly. So when a woman openly desires him, it deeply affects his confidence and emotional connection to her. It makes him feel chosen instead of tolerated. And for many men, feeling genuinely desired by their woman becomes one of the strongest emotional anchors keeping the relationship emotionally alive and deeply connected. What many couples fail to realize is that intimacy is not a luxury in a relationship. It's emotional maintenance. Just like communication, trust, and quality time, physical connection needs consistent care too. The problem is that many people wait until the relationship already feels emotionally broken before taking intimacy seriously again. And by then, resentment, distance, and emotional insecurity have already quietly built up between both partners. A man who constantly feels emotionally disconnected physically often stops feeling emotionally safe expressing vulnerability altogether. And honestly, this is why so many relationships slowly become emotionally cold over time. Not because love disappeared overnight, but because emotional and physical connections stopped being intentionally nurtured together consistently. At the end of the day, most men do not constantly want to bang their woman because they only care about sex. For many men, intimacy is emotional connection expressed physically. It's reassurance, closeness, acceptance, stress relief, confidence, and love all mixed together in one experience. And honestly, many relationships would become stronger if both men and women understood each other's emotional needs more deeply instead of constantly assuming the worst about each other. A man wants to feel desired just like a woman wants to feel emotionally valued. And when both people stop treating intimacy like a burden and treating it like emotional connection again, the relationship changes completely. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next.